Welcome everyone to the Simply Soccer podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and being here. Sorry for missing out last week in creating a podcast. Just had some other things going on. Sometimes I get a little backed up with work, or I have other things going on that I just can't make some content sometimes. Usually I like to make these podcasts ahead of time so I'm not in that kind of situation. For example, I'm actually recording this on Wednesday, but of course you're going to be hearing it on Saturday. But just sometimes I'm not able to make it, but I do apologize because I know a lot of you do enjoy these podcasts and get a lot of value out of them, and that's why I continue doing them. So I'll try and make sure I don't miss them, especially since, I should be able to do them considering that it's only once a week. So I do apologize for that, but we're back at it this week. Some quick announcements. Tomorrow we will be doing a live stream. We had our first live stream about a week ago, 2 weeks ago actually, and it went pretty well. You guys enjoyed it. We're going to get back into that trend. I'm going to try and find ways to make the live streams a little more, unique and entertaining, so it's not just me speaking to you through the camera answering questions. I think that is very valuable, but I kind of want to make them a little more fun as well. I'm not going to be thinking of anything for this weekend. We're going to do it normally this weekend, but in the future, I would love to hear some of you guys give me some ideas on how to make these live streams more fun, how to make them more than just me speaking and answering your questions. I might try, maybe I could play some sort of video game while I do them so that there's some other kind of thing going on. Maybe I'm going to be thinking of some ideas, but feel free to offer me your ideas and what you want to see. And if it's within my power to do it, I may do it. So, I definitely just want to make it a more fun experience. And although I like the Q&A format where you guys ask me questions and I answer to the best of my ability, I do like the idea of adding a little more of an element, a fun element to it. Okay, so just, give me your ideas. But we will be having one tomorrow, Sunday. I will be announcing the time. I've probably already announced the time, so if you don't know about it, go to the community tab on the Simply Soccer homepage on the YouTube channel. If you go to the community tab, you'll see the time that we're going to be doing the live stream, and you can also ask me your questions to be answered live. So if you want a question answered, put it in there. I'll also post something on Instagram. Probably should have already done it. So you should know at this point when we're doing it or what time we're doing it, and leaving your questions as well, okay? Other announcements, just for you in Ultimate Soccer Skills, make sure you check out the new mini challenge we put in there. Going to be adding a lot more content to that course, so if you are someone who is in the program, make sure you check that out. And also keep giving me feedback on the program, guys. For those of you who are in it, whenever I add new stuff, you don't have to pay anything more or anything. You will always be in it no matter how much I add. And I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear what you think you should be included in it, what you want to see more of. And it doesn't hurt to give me these suggestions, because it just makes it more likely that I'll actually put those in there and work towards making it better and better and better. Okay, and for those of you who do want to check out Ultimate Soccer Skills who are not in it, it's my training course. You can check it out down in the description. I'll have a link to it. Anyway, let's get into the content of this podcast. We have those announcements out of the way. And so today, I just want to touch upon some topics I may have gone over before, but someone asked me about how to become more self-confident as a player. A couple people actually asked me this. I answered someone in the comments, but I also want to touch upon this because I know how important it is to feel confident in your matches and just in general. I think confidence breeds confidence. So if you're confident in your matches, it filters into other areas of your life. So if you're just a naturally confident, or you've developed confidence in general, I think you will take that onto the field. But there are definitely some things you can do, so we'll go over that. I want to go over how you can start standing out more in your matches. I think this is important, and we've done a few videos recently on this. I've gone over, I think, how to stand out as a CAM player. We made a video on that. I went over how to stand out as a striker. We made a video on that. So I want to just kind of go in general how you can take a look at your own game and analyze it and discover what it is you can do to stand out. All right, so we're going to go cover that, and then we're just going to go over taking action once again. And I know I cover this all the time, but this is something you need to just like beat into your head. It's something you need to have repeated to you so that it really sinks in. So at the end, if we have time, we'll get into that a little more. All right, so let us get into it. So let's start with how to become more self-confident. So this is something, again, for those of you who have followed me for a while, know it's something I used to struggle with. In fact, I'll actually kind of go over exactly how it manifested itself for me. So when I was younger, I was a very insecure, not confident person at all, except when I played football. So it was kind of like, playing football, playing soccer was where I felt the most comfortable. It's where I felt the most confident because I knew I was good, I had ability, and I didn't want to do anything else. I just wanted to get on the pitch and play. But the problem is when you come from the foundation of being a pretty unconfident person, and when and that kind of grows and manifests, and I didn't deal with it, I didn't actually try and do anything to help that, it eventually filtered into my playing as well, so that when I was becoming a later teenager, I was starting to have games where I was really confident like normal, but I also had matches where I was just not at all. And that's the problem with confidence, is if you let it go unchecked, if you don't deal with it and try and improve it and do things every day that are going to help boost it and make you feel more confident, which we'll go over, it will seep into other areas of your life. For me, I was not confident in most areas of my life. In fact, I was a very insecure kid because I had some things happen in my past that just caused me to be insecure. And I never really learned that I can actually, do things myself in order to become more confident. I used to think, anyone who was confident in, say, like a social aspect or in some other aspect, maybe with their schoolwork or whatever, I used to think it was just natural. And I used to think, well, I'm naturally confident in football. That's where my confidence is. It's not necessarily in these other areas. But confidence is a very umbrella term. It really does apply to almost all areas of your life. And that's why you want to build a foundation of confidence. You don't want to just be confident in this situation or that situation. You don't want to have situational confidence. Now you do, but you don't want to have that as a crutch, meaning I'll be confident here, but I won't be confident here. You want to get it to a point where you're confident in all situations, and it's a work in progress always. I'm not confident in every situation. I go nervous into unfamiliar situations. I still find I'm nervous sometimes in social situations, for example, when I don't know the people, like a bunch of the people. I still go into it. So it's not about you have to be confident in everything. It's just kind of working on it day by day to build it up. And the more confident you are overall, the more confident you'll be in your game, because confidence really just comes from your self-image. That's where it comes from. Insecurity is what kills confidence. It's when you have those doubts and insecurities. A confident person is still a person who feels fear, who still gets anxious. It still has all these things, but what a confident person does, I've noticed at least, and I've noticed this when I am confident, what happens is, despite that fear, despite the anxiety, despite the nervousness, they still go through with whatever it is they're going to do. Right? It's not that they're confident in their ability at something. They're confident in their ability to rise up. They're confident in themselves. They're confident in their ability to meet challenges. So they may go into a situation not knowing if they're going to pull it off, but they believe in themselves and they go for it anyway. So, for example, I'm not much of a basketball player, let's say, but that doesn't mean I'm not much of a basketball player, so I don't have much confidence in the fact, if I step on a basketball court, I'm going to be a bit fearful and nervous because I don't play basketball that much. But I still believe in myself to put in a good performance or do the best that I can, right? I still believe in myself to learn if I ever wanted to become good at it or whatever. I still have that belief in myself that I can meet challenges. So let's say, for example, basketball was a bad example actually, but let's just say that was the case. Let's say I wanted to get good at basketball. For whatever reason, I don't, but let's say that was the case. I would be very confident in my ability to get better at basketball. I may not be great at it yet, or that good at it at all, but I would be confident in my ability to rise up to the challenge of becoming good at it and put in the work and practice to do so. And I find that's the big difference. Insecurity and when you're unconfident, there's a hopelessness to it, where you think things will never change, where you think you're just bad, where you look at your self-image and it's not good. Right? that's where this lack of confidence in yourself comes from. Self-confidence is the word itself. It's self-confidence, how confident you are in yourself. Of course, if you do something new or you're in a situation that you're unfamiliar with, you will be not as confident in that situation. But the situation is the reason for you not being confident. If it's yourself, if you're the reason you're not confident, then there's a fundamental problem there. There's a deep-rooted problem you need to take a look at and work on. Because if the lack of confidence is coming from your own self-image, it means there's something you see within you, or when you think of yourself, there's this lack, or there's this almost like, sometimes it might be self-hate, that's causing you to not be confident. And that's what I had. I had that self-loathing, self-hate just built up through things like bullying and just not feeling adequate enough as a child, that manifested itself into me thinking I was the problem. So I thought I was the problem. I'm the reason I suck at this or that. But it wasn't like that wasn't the reason. It was just because I wasn't practiced. So for you, if it's like a social situation or whatever, and you're not good at it, I mean, anything takes skills. Even that kind of thing takes skill. So it has nothing to do with you being a bad person or you not having the potential to rise up to this challenge. It's just that you don't have to practice. So if you're going into your matches with this level of unconfidence, and it's coming from that area, you need to work on that area first. In that image you have of yourself, you need to see yourself as someone who is good enough and is good. And maybe you're not practiced enough at something, but you see yourself as someone who can rise up to that challenge of becoming someone who is practiced enough to be good, if that makes sense. Because it really is where that stems from. Someone who is confident has the ability to forgive themselves. I think that's huge, actually. I think that's one of the biggest things someone who's confident has. They forgive themselves. Because something that happens with unconfident people is they beat themselves up. And I do this a little bit still, and I'm working on it. But I used to do this all the time. I would beat myself up for even the littlest of shit. Even the minute things that didn't make a difference. That made no difference, but for some reason I'd put a lot of emphasis on them. That's something, if you have that self-loathing, if you think there's something wrong with you or you have some kind of lack, or you see yourself lacking in something and you're internalizing it as there's something wrong with me, that's something that'll happen. This will filter into other areas of your life, okay? So something that a confident person has is they forgive themselves. And we've talked about this already, so I'm not going to go over it too much. You have to forgive yourself. You make a mistake in a match, and let's just relate this to soccer. This applies to everything in my eyes, but let's say it's just soccer. If you make a mistake in a match, you have to forgive yourself. I'm not saying don't learn from it, but forgive yourself. It doesn't matter how bad the mistake is. You could score a terrible own goal. You could miss a penalty. I've missed penalties. I've scored own goals before. It happens. But there's no reason for you to feel guilty. There's no reason for you to not forgive yourself. There's a great thing in the Toltecs. The Toltecs, who are an ancient group of people, the Toltecs were a part of a group of people, but I'm forgetting the actual people. But Toltec knowledge, one of the things they say is you should only suffer once for one mistake. And that means suffering through guilt. You should only suffer once. And once you have suffered, once you have kind of paid the price for your mistake, you move on, you forgive, and you move on. So you feel bad for it a bit, you feel bad for it initially, you recognize that you've made a mistake, you forgive yourself, and you move on. But it's holding on to those mistakes and holding on to those failures, quote unquote, that is, I think, holding you back. You need to forgive yourself and move on. Because you're just going to be thinking about those mistakes all the time when you're not confident. You're going to be going into a match going like, oh, I hope I do well. Oh, but remember that last match where you made this terrible mistake? And then you're in a downward spiral where it's just going to lead to you going onto the pitch completely doubting yourself. So you need to, if that's the root of being unconfident, you need to really deal with this on the wide spectrum of your life, not just in football, okay? Because I really think if you're a confident person in general, it will filter into your matches. Now, other ways to get confident in soccer specifically, if this is not your problem, and I won't spend too much time on this because we've already spent a bit of time right now on this one topic, but if it's like you just want to become more confident in your play, practice, practice, practice. I've gone over this before, but repetition, practice, that's what makes confidence. And I always link to a famous TED Talk. Not famous TED Talk, but a really good TED Talk by a soccer coach who's won like national titles, who has helped players go pro. And he talks about this is how you build confidence in your ability at anything. The more skilled you are, the more confident you'll be. It's that simple. It really is that simple. And you can say, well, how do I get confident now? How do I get confident at this very moment? Well, it's always a work in progress. You can't just have something immediately. You have to work for it. Now, again, a mindset's very important, so you can start the process of like what I'm saying and start feeling more confident now by realizing you're going to make mistakes and forgiving yourself and learning from them. And that will help you with your confidence in general, because you need to see yourself as someone who can do things and can rise up to the challenge and will forgive yourself if you make mistakes. Not making mistakes deliberately, but will forgive yourself if you do. If you start thinking from that perspective immediately, that will immediately boost your confidence. But again, it takes work. I feel like a lot of people or players think that the first moment they fail at this, they fail at, forgiving themselves, that it's over and they'll never be confident again. No, you just reset. You just try again. Persistence, even in this regard. So, for example, if I make a mistake and I beat myself up about it, I'm like, oh, I was supposed to forgive myself, and now I'm beating myself up about not forgiving myself. Don't do that. Just go, oh, okay, wait a second. I'm beating myself up. What was I supposed to do? Oh, right. Okay. I need to forgive myself, move on, and, analyze it, move on, and do that, you got it. Just keep moving forward. Keep at it. If you fail at it once, do it again. You fail at it the second time, it doesn't matter. Keep doing it. The alternative is don't do it at all and just keep spiraling out of control. It is hard. It is hard to change a behavior in the way you view yourself, but it's 100% worth it. I can tell you. From me personally, coming from being incredibly depressed, crippling depression, to someone who really doesn't see himself like that anymore and has a lot of confidence in himself and a lot of confidence in being able to deal with things and rise up to situations and challenges, I can tell you that it is worth the work. I can tell you it might not be easy. It might be easier for some, depending on where you're starting, but it's possible. It's more than possible. It will happen if you do what you need to do. Okay? So you start the process. But again, the other way is, not the other way, you should be doing both of these things, but it's practice. If you're not confident in a certain aspect of your game, so let's say you're not confident taking people one-on-one, but you need to take people one-on-one, how do you become more confident? You practice, repetition after repetition after repetition. This builds instinct. It builds muscle memory so that you don't have to think about it, that your body just does it. You get used to doing it in a certain situation. One of my biggest attributes as a footballer, from every coach I've had that have told me I'm a really good finisher, right? And a lot of coaches I had used to tell me, you're just such a natural finisher. And I used to just smile at that, because I'm not a natural finisher at all. I don't actually believe in that. I worked really hard at my finishing. Finishing was something I used to work on almost every single day when I was younger. Almost every single day. I got good at that and was very confident in my finishing. A great combination, actually having the skill to do it and then being very confident in front of goal, that leads to goals. Because I practiced it a lot. I focused a lot on it. So I became really confident in my ability to score. I knew if I missed a chance, I'd get the next one. I knew if I was one-on-one with the keeper, that I'm going to score. I knew that if I got an opportunity, and that didn't just happen. That happened because repetition after repetition after repetition after repetition for years, for a long time. And because of that, I became much more confident in it. Okay, so those are some things you can do to work on your confidence. Just to recap, you want to work on your confidence overall in general, because I have a feeling that if you're not confident going on the pitch, you're probably not confident in everyday life as well. So you need to work on your confidence as a whole. It's not just about football here. You want to work on it as a whole. Now, and then the other thing is, when you are working on your confidence for certain aspects of your game, repetition. Keep practicing, keep refining your skills, keep trying to get better. And I'm telling you, the only reason I'm confident in my shooting and goal scoring, for example, is because I work on it all the time. The only reason I'm confident taking players one-on-one is because I work on it all the time. And the same thing will happen to you if you practice. All right, and this is a good transition into the next topic, and it's how to stand out more. And we kind of just covered one of those, which is going to be certain practices. But I want to kind of go over something a lot more specific. Because when it comes to standing out, I feel like a lot of players want it all. You want everything. You want to be good at every single area of football. And I don't blame you for wanting that. I mean, who wouldn't want to be the best at everything? Who wouldn't want to be the best finisher, the best at long distance shooting, the best at 1v1s, the most intelligent, have the highest soccer IQ, who, have the best movement, best defending ability, best long passing, short passing, whatever, ball control. Who wouldn't want all of that? The problem is you can't have all of that. You can't get greedy. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work on most of these areas. What I am saying is there's a thing called opportunity cost. What does this mean? Opportunity cost is essentially saying that while you're doing one thing, you're missing out on another. The trick is to make sure the thing you are doing is going to benefit you more than whatever that other thing is. So for example, if I'm a striker, which I am, so I don't know why I'm saying it like that. So I'm a striker. What would be more beneficial for me to work on? My shooting and finishing or my playmaking abilities? Now both, and I used that one deliberately. Now both of these are great. Having playmaker abilities as a striker would be helpful. Absolutely. Setting up my teammates, being able to drop back and maneuver with the ball, being more creative. But what's more important to a striker? Like if I'm a striker who is asked to score goals, what is one of the things I need to work on the most? My finishing, my shooting. Because if I find myself in front of net and I haven't worked on those things, I'm not going to score. And I'm also not going to have the confidence to score like we went over earlier because I haven't put in the practice. Meaning I'm going to doubt myself in front of net. Now I could obviously work on my playmaking abilities and certain things that go into that as well, right? But what would be a better use of my time? Probably my finishing and shooting. And this is why I want you to start thinking about is what are the areas I could work on? What is it about my game? And you can get super specific with this if you want, where you're just like working on a single skill move in shooting, or you're working on a certain movement and really committing it to muscle memory. But what is it you can work on that will help you stand out the most in your position? Because when I say stand out in football, that's pretty general. So let's forget about that. How do I stand out in my position, in my role? Because if you're a winger, who gives a shit if you would stand out as a center back? You don't need to worry about that. If you're a striker, you're not going to be doing the same thing as a center midfield player. So you need to hyper focus on whatever it is for your position. Again, a striker, his bread and butter is finishing, goal scoring, being able to shoot the ball, being able to be dangerous. Look at Harry Kane. Harry Kane is one of my favorite examples of this because he works so incredibly hard on the things that help him score goals and be as dangerous as possible. And he doesn't work on other things. And he probably does a little bit, he obviously will as Tottenham are training those kind of things. But you can tell how much this dude has worked on his finishing. And you can tell because of how he's progressed. He didn't just come out of nowhere. He worked on so much behind the scenes. He worked on his finishing. It's obvious. He worked on his shooting. He even goes over how he did it. He works on how he talks about how he does extra training and how he has a strategy. And he works on certain types of shots over other ones. Like, for example, in an interview with Thierry Henry, he said, I deliberately work on my shooting low towards the corners, meaning even from distance, he will try and hit it low and towards the corners. And you can see him do this in his matches. And you can see that every time he gets a chance to do that, he almost executes it perfectly. That confidence and that ability to do it came down from a ton of practice. And look at the benefits he's getting from it. So what is it that you could do to get those kind of results? Right? And it will be different per position. But what is it? What are the things you could focus on? Because again, let's say you train individually 2 hours a day. Let's say that's a pretty good average. Let's say it's 2 hours a day. You only get to work on certain things. Now let's say you mix up your training, so some days you work on this and you work on that. Still, you only have 7 days a week, and you need to incorporate rest days, you need to incorporate days that are more intense and days that are lighter because you got to think about the recovery of your body. So that cuts your time down even more. So you could just focus on a bunch of general shit. You could just focus on becoming a generally good player. And you will become a generally good player. You'll be that kind of player who's versatile and can play many positions, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or you'll become that kind of player who's tidy on the ball and, doesn't really stand out, but kind of fits in. But if you want to be, and we're talking about, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's the type of player you want to be. But if you want to stand out, that means you have to be better at certain things than other players, because you won't stand out if there's another striker who's better at finishing than you. You won't stand out if there's that other midfielder who's better at the things midfielders need to be better at than you. So identify your game. Look at your position and go, what is it? What are like 3 or 4 things that would help me dominate matches? Analyze your game footage and go, wow, it seems like a lot of the times if I could cut in in that situation, I could get a shot off and goal and score. I mean, look at Robin. One of the things he does almost every single time is cut inside and scores. And he's made a career out of doing it. He's gotten so good at that skill that when you think of cutting in and scoring, you think of him. You think of Robin. That's how good at that skill he is. He looked at the skill, he looked at that ability to do it and went, I'm going to really hyper focus on this. And you can find training footage of him actually doing this, focusing on this specific skill. It's just one thing. Now, he does other things, of course, but he hyper-focuses on this one thing, and look at the results it gave him. I think, again, there's this idea of FOMO, which is fear of missing out. You think if you only focus on one thing, you're missing out on all these other things. But again, you have to see how much benefit you're going to get from that one thing and how much benefit the other thing is going to give you. Maybe that other thing wasn't going to really do much for you. It might make you a little bit better. It may have even made you a lot better, but this other thing made you even better than that. So you need to identify those things. That's how you start standing out. You don't need to be great at everything. In fact, it would be almost impossible to do it, because you just do not have enough time. You do not have enough time. But if you focus on those key areas that are going to help you stand out in your position, that are going to help you have the biggest impact from your position, then you will stand out. You will have to eventually stand out because you're working so hard at these things. Right? For me, it was finishing and goal scoring, and it paid off. I was the top goal scorer my freshman year at college because of it. I came in, made the team, started for the team, and as a freshman became the top goal scorer because I had focused on those things. Right? So even when I would only get like one opportunity a game, if I got like one opportunity in a game, I would most likely score it because I'd worked on that area. In fact, it still plays today. When I play in my adult league, I don't get too many chances a game. We have another striker who's really the guy who takes most of the chances or shoots more. I only get like 2 or 3 chances a game, yet I still score almost every single game. Because I know when I get that chance, I practice so much that I'm really confident I'm going to score. Right? Because I've really worked on that area. I've really worked on my movement and my ability to control the ball with one touch and then shoot, or be able to finish with my first touch, or be able to beat a player one-on-one and then score, or be able to dink the keeper if that makes sense to do, or go around him or finish either side. I've worked on these things to the point where I've gotten so good at them that when I get my opportunity, I'm going to score. I just am. And if I miss that opportunity, I know I'm going to get the next one. Right? And that confidence does not come out of nothing. It comes out of the training that I've done. And you can have absolutely the same kind in whatever area you want if you put in the work, if you train in that specific area, okay? Not all training is made the same. That's important to recognize. Not all training is the same. Some training is better. Again, deliberate practice, working on deliberate things that will advance you and make you better. Refining certain skills that are going to help you stand out in your position is the way to go. Okay, so I really hope you understand that and take that away, because I don't want you focusing on things that aren't going to really give you much return. And again, you need to be good at, if you want to be a high-level player, if you want to play in college, you want to go beyond that and be a pro, you have to be good at everything, but you need to be great at some things as well. And most players can't be great at everything. But you can be good at everything, meaning you can do it. Like for me, I have, I'm trying to think, what's something I can work on? So my passing is pretty good, but it's not great. It's not the best on my team, for sure. It's not, But, I can still do it very well because I obviously trained that area because I need to be able to be good at that. But I focused more of my time into my goal scoring, beating players one-on-one to set up more chances. I worked on more of the things that helped me do those things than necessarily all these other things. But I can still pass very accurately. I can still play a good long ball if I need to. But I'm not going to be like David Silva out on the pitch playing intricate little balls and that nobody else sees, right? So just, think about that. Think about what you can work on to really help you stand out in your position. If like you're a winger, you should be good at taking people on one-on-one and crossing the ball, cutting inside, things like that. So identify what they are and really, really start focusing on that. So the last thing I was going to go over is taking action. So you guys know this. We're going over all this stuff. I talked about how to develop more confidence. I talked about standing out in your position. But all of this is not, like, it might as well be white noise unless you actually go out and apply it. And this goes for anything you learn here. And I know I say this all the time, and I want to say it again. I want to say it over and over again until it sinks into every single person who listens. So it sinks in more for me as well. That the results come from the action taking. Sure, you need to be smart. You need to work hard and smart. That's what we just went over. Practicing certain things deliberately, but you need to now take the action. It's not enough to know. The awareness is the first step, but after you have the awareness, then it's the execution. Awareness, then, strategy. You can break this down even more, but you can just say awareness, plan, action. And then you iterate, you tweak, right? So like you add to the plan, you take away from the plan, maybe you need a new plan, who knows, but you need to take action, okay? So don't just listen to this and do nothing. Don't just listen to this and then feel good about all the results you could get if you did something. Listen, make a plan if you haven't already been doing one, and get to work, get into it, man or woman. So that's it for today, guys. I'm going to leave it there. A lot to throw at you, but I hope it's been helpful. We'll do hashtag, hashtag, no, we've done that. Just do hashtag action. We could do the same hashtag every time. It wouldn't really matter. But do hashtag action. If you put that in the comments, it allows me to know, or lets me know, that you've listened all the way to the end. I like to identify the people who've done it just to see who, is more committed to these podcasts and who's more committed to improving their game and is investing their time to listen to these, because it is an investment of your time, which is, your time's valuable. So hashtag action. If you have a comment or question and you put that hashtag along with your comment or question, it's much more likely I will answer it. So keep that in mind. I like to answer the questions of the people who are actually listening all the way through, opposed to the people, again, that come here for 5 minutes and then just ask a question and then leave. And I know plenty of people do that. So I want to make sure I'm accommodating you guys who are actually investing your time first, okay? And even if you don't have a comment or question, put that hashtag in the comments with nothing else, just to let me know that you've listened, and I can throw my appreciation your way. All right, guys, so thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast. Please join us for the live stream tomorrow. The time, again, will be up on the community tab. Trouble with that word for some reason. Community tab on the channel, and it will be up on Instagram as well. So check that out. Thank you once again for listening to this podcast, and I will see, hopefully, all of you during the live stream tomorrow.